Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is this very large 8.5 by 11 Stamperia Alice Through the Looking Glass album. Now this album has a lot of pages. It's packed full. This has about a 3.5-inch spine. So I'm going to take you around really quick and show you what we're going to be making today. Right up front, this folds up so you can place a photograph or whatever it is that you would like to do. Now, as far as the cover, I left it pretty simple, but this is a great opportunity for you to add your creativity to maybe add some flowers or something else. So let's get into this. There are 14 pages. That is counting it like a book. Page 1, page 2, and so forth. Right up front, page 1, what we have is a magnetic strap. And then what we have here are 2 fold-outs, or fold-ups, I should say. And there's places up here to place photographs. Then there is a large pocket back here. And I do not have all my folders done and whatnot, but I got a few things in there so that you can see what it looks like. So it just comes back. Over here we have 2 pockets, and then we also have this magnetic flip. So you can journal here and you can place a photo here. We do this in the tutorial together. And then I have a couple picture mats. Very cute layout, I thought. Also, you can tuck back behind Alice. You can also tuck back behind here. So if there's a special photograph that you want to highlight. Page 3. Okay, page 3 has 2 large fold-outs on it. Right up front, you'll see that there is a tuck behind Alice, and then we made this picture mat together. It's what holds down this folder where you can place another photograph. You can get a photograph here, and it just slides in there to hold that down. Our magnet is over here, and we open that up, and there's places right here to place a photograph. And this album's so big, I'm going to slide it down. This opens up. So more places for photographs. And then over here is a large fold-out. And you can place a photograph over there, as well as place your photo mats in the side tuck area. It's a little side pocket. It'll actually hold quite a bit in there. So you can get pictures in here. Moving on to this one, I really like this page. It's a lot of fun. This is a very large magnetic flip. And what you're going to get when you flip that up is we have like a tuck area back here, but picture mats, and I haven't finished this little tag. But it looks like that, and you just slide things back in there. Okay, down here is really cool because this folds down, but it's also a very large pocket. So I can pile in all these picture mats and get some more in there. And then that just flips down. These are 2 fold-outs for photographs. You can place a photograph here if you have one on the landscape. It'll fit in there, there. And then that folds out as well up there. I think you can see that pretty good. Open area for photos. And I have all of these. I'm just going to put these right back in the pocket. Next page, we have a large double pocket, and we have a pocket up here on the side so that we can just slide our picture mat in there. And I also have a little tag in there. And I have a mat here and a mat here up front, and then in the back I have a larger one. Over here, this is magnetic, and the strap actually holds down both sides of the waterfall. So it looks like one big panel back there. So all you do is just flip these, and we did conserve. And there's room down here to place 2 good-sized photos. So there's room. Going on to our next page, we have a very large pocket in the back. Let's start there. And I made this after the tutorial, just a folder with some red cardstock. But that's kind of an inspiration for you to give you some ideas what you can do. Up here is really cute. So over here is a folder, and we have this magnetically latched down to keep the folder down. And there's places to journal and for photographs. Over here, what we have is 2 fold-outs, and they're magnetically held down. Up front, we have a couple pockets, and it's magnetic right here, so we can open that up. More places just to place your photographs. And I'm going to fold this down so you can see. And nice roomy pockets. The next page, when we did the tutorial, we left this whole page alone. Now after the tutorial, I went and made some picture mats, and I just glued down underneath like that, so I can still slide something back behind in there. Same thing over here. Next 2 pages are, we have 2 very generous sized side pockets. And up front we have pockets. So here's a pocket, here's the back side pocket. You can get some large ones in there. Up here and back here. So a lot of room, that's for sure. Coming to the last pages I should say, over here we left this open so you can just put your photographs, and then back here we have a very large pocket in the back and 2 pockets right up here. And then I have a very large matting back there. So that is what we will be making today. It has a lot of room and space in here for us. Let's move on into the materials list really quick, and then we'll start putting this together. Let's go through the materials quickly. You're going to need 3 of the Stamperia Alice Through the Looking Glass paper packs, and these are 12 by 12. Remember, this is a large album, and it's based off my Camp Happy Bear. It's got a lot of pages, and it's large as far as 8.5 by 11 or so. For our spine wrap, you have a choice. I'm going to be using the brown, the specialty brown embossed vinyl. Black would also look good. You just need one of these. These are 8.5 by 11 sheets. On the back, it's this. So whichever one you would like. I'm going to use the brown. You're going to want Tyvek. Tyvek is a material that is hard to tear. It's part of our binding. You're going to want 2 sheets of 12 by 12 chipboard. It doesn't matter if it's black, it doesn't matter if it's craft or natural colored, because it gets wrapped. For the inside of my album, I'm using 8.5 by 11. It's about 110 pound. It's black. This is Basil. And Basil is a very good brand, and it's a little more expensive, but it is good stuff. And I have that in my store now. You're going to need 3 sheets of either 65 pound or an 80 pound 12 by 12 black cardstock to wrap our album. You're going to want to have some solid colored cardstock to do some of your picture mats with. There's not going to be enough to do a whole bunch of them with what's left of the decorated paper. So red cardstock, cream, whatever your choice. I don't sell this, but just grab what you have. Look in your stash. Adhesives. I'm using the Art Glitter Dries Clear. I do have a metal tip on there to control the flow of glue. And I am using the fabric tack, and that is so that I can adhere my embossed vinyl to my spine. It grabs super quick, it works, and that's what I'm using. Score tape, I'd have a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 inch on hand. I'm just going to use a couple strips of some bling. Now I have this, and even though that this has many rows, all you do is cut, and you can get a single row out of this, but this is bling on a roll. Magnets. Now, I believe we're going to need about 16, so you'll want 1 full pack and maybe 4 from a second pack. So I've got 2 packs ready to go here. And other than that, you're going to need for this a scoring board, a paper cutter, your bone folder, scissors, craft knife is handy, ruler, and a pencil with an eraser. Okay, I'm ready to go. Let's start putting this together. This is going to be a fun one. We're ready to assemble the base album. However, we are going to review the pre-cuts off the pre-cutting guide. So you will definitely need to download that to get your size of your chipboard we're going to cut down and all your black cardstock. So the first thing we had under the section base album, we cut 2 pieces of chipboard that were 8.5 by 11, and we labeled them cover. We cut a 3.5 by 8.5 chipboard spine. We cut 2 pieces of Tyvek, and they were 1 inch by 8.5 inches. We cut 2 pieces of cardstock that are 10.5 by 12 inches. We called this an album wrap. We cut a 5.5 by 10.5, and this is our album wrap. We cut a 6 inch by 8.25 inch. This is our inside spine cover. We cut 2 pieces of our cardstock that were 8.25 by 10 5/8, and we called these inside covers. We had 6 pieces of cardstock that are 8.25 by 11 inches, and we called this our inner page. On each one of these, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 11 inches across, and we scored each one at a 1/2 inch. And it said just to label one of them. Okay, I'm going to get this out of my way, and the first thing that we want to grab, 3 things actually, are 2 pieces that are 10.5 by 12 album wrap, and we also had a 5.5 by 10.5. So the 5.5 one I'm going to set off to the side. We're going to get our 1/4 inch score tape out. On the right side of one of the 10.5 by 12, we're going to lay a piece of 1/4 inch score tape. We have a 1/4 inch overlap, and so we're just going to lay it right along the edge without going over. If you go over the edge, you'll definitely want to clip off any of that score tape peeking over. Once you've laid your score tape, you burnish it really good. And burnishing gets the air out from underneath, and it helps your adhesive make contact with your cardstock. On the second one, we're going to lay a piece on this one along the left side. We're going to burnish, and then we're going to check to make sure no score tape is overhanging, and I look pretty good. So one thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to tell you up front, is we are going to release the score tape, and we are going to place our piece and overlap it onto the score tape. For me, I like to get my paper cutter out. I'm not cutting it, I'm just using the paper guide to keep me straight. So I'm going to work on this one with the score tape over here. And I'll get my craft knife out to release that score tape backing. And I'm going to place it right up against that paper guide. Now I'm going to grab the 5.5 by 10.5 and I'll place that up against the paper guide. And all I'm doing here is using that guide to help me get these on straight. If you get it on a little crooked, that's okay. Once you have it down, let's burnish. I'm going to grab my other one and I'm going to release the score tape backing. I'm going to press that on up there and I'm going to overlap. And I think I got it there. Just take your time, make sure you're lined up. Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way. We're going to need our chipboard cover and our chipboard spine. We're going to start with the spine. You can see where the seam line is on each one of your pieces down here. The idea is we're going to place score tape on this and we're going to place it evenly in between those seams. It's very important because you don't want to end up, when we do get our other chipboard on, you don't want the seam to be on the edge of this. So getting it in the middle and making sure you have about a 1 inch up here and a 1 inch down here, because this is what wraps. So for me, I'm just going to place it down and I'll just make a mark so I know where that needs to lay. I'm going to grab my chipboard spine and the first thing I'm going to do is lay my score tape down, and what I'm going to do is go all the way around the edge like a picture frame without going over the sides. Now you can go one section at a time and tear it, or you can do a little wrap little thing like I do here. If you do the little wrap, you may get a little bit of bulk at the edges. It doesn't bother me that I have that, but just to let you know. The next thing we're going to do is place one down the middle, and we will do, well, let's do one on each side here of that. We're going to burnish this, and if I'm going too fast for you, please pause the video, and the pause button will be your best friend throughout this tutorial. So I'm going to release the backing off this, and now I'm going to place the edge where that is, but I'm looking to make sure I have about 1 inch here and here. Try to get this on as straight as I can. That looks good. So we'll flip this over and burnish it in just a moment. I'm going to pull this out of the way, and on our chipboard covers we're going to do the same thing with going around the outside edges like a picture frame. Another thing about score tape, and I know a lot of you who watch my videos will already know what I'm going to say, but because we get new viewers all the time, I do want to let you know that before you handle your score tape, make sure you wash all the lotions off your skin, get the oils off, so that the oils don't get on the sticky, because it's almost impossible not to get your hands in it, so it doesn't decrease the potency. So I've got one down the middle, and on this one I'm going to put 3 on each side. And this is going to be for the cover, the front cover. The back one we won't have to do this many, but I think we should on the front. So we're going to take a moment and burnish down this tape really good. And for this one, what I'd like you to do is go around the outside like a picture frame, 1 down the middle, and then only 2 on each side. And this will be our back. When you're doing for the back, we're just going to space them out. You don't have to be persnickety about measuring. Just kind of eyeball that and just get those 2 on each side. So this one is the back one. I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to get my front one on here. The idea of this is once I release the score tape, We're going to place this down and leave a 1/4 inch spacing between the spine and the cover. We do have to have that spacing since we are wrapping. So for me to know when I'm done, if I get this turned around, I'm just going to put over here left. Go ahead and write that on this one so that we can keep track which one has the most score tape, okay, for now. Okay, let's take a moment, burnish this down, and then we're going to place it, again, a 1/4 inch away. If it's easier for you, you can just lay this down. You can measure out, line up the bottom of the chipboard here with your spine chipboard, because they are the same. And then what you can do is just kind of make a pencil mark to where you know how far away it is, or draw a line. So I'm going to get mine ready to go, and we'll place this together. I am ready to go, and I am going to place this, leaving about a 1/4 inch, trying to get these straight together. If you do not get them entirely straight, don't worry, because after we wrap, there's plenty of room when we wrap over if it's a little off. So we just want to try to get that 1/4 inch as straight as we can there. Okay, here is our back piece. I want you to put right, just for now. We're going to burnish, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lay it down, lining up the bottom of this with the bottom of our spine, leaving a 1/4 inch. That's it. Pretty easy. I think that's good enough. Now what I'm going to do is just flip this over, and I'm going to burnish, making sure all that score tape is down. Okay, so right and left. Let's grab our Tyvek. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to lay strips on this. And you see where our spacing is? This goes over that spacing. So all I'm going to do is lay some score tape here. And Tyvek can wrinkle up on you. Do not worry, it does get covered. Sometimes it doesn't want to do what we want it to do. So one there and one here, right down the middle. We'll do that. And we will clip off any overhang of score tape. And what we do with this one, we're going to do the same with this. So let's place this one first. Score tape stickies. We're going to line it up at the bottom of our chipboard, right over that gap, and we'll just pull it up. If you get it on crooked, it will get covered up, so no worries. So we're just going to burnish this down a bit. We're going to do the same thing with this. So if you need to pause the video, get your score tape on, and place it over the other side, do so. Okay, now that we have that down, what we're going to do is we're going to start working our paper. So we're going to use our hand, we'll place one down, and we're just going to bend it to bend over. Once you have it bent over pretty good, just work that. You'll just take the side of your tool, and if you're using one of these, you'll use that side. And we're just going to do that on all the edges. And that helps for when we wrap. Now down here, be very careful. We're just going to do little at a time because we have our seams. Now sometimes, as careful as we are, we sometimes will get splits when we wrap on those seams. If we do, I'll show you a quick little remedy for that. But this one, since it's such a long, large piece, we work it very slowly, especially around the seams there. And once you've got to where you've done that, you can just use your tool to help you. I bumped the camera, I think. There we go. Okay, so let's do this side, little by little, and take your time. Okay, so I have this. What we're going to do next is we are going to grab our 1/4 inch score tape, and we're going to place it. Let me bring this over. We're going to place it right on underneath the edge of that chipboard, all the way around like a picture frame. I have mine all the way around. The next thing that we're going to want to do is lay it towards the edge without going over. Now, because we are going to be clipping at an angle, you do not have to bring it all the way to the corner there. You can come in about a 1/2 inch. But we're going to go all the way around. Once you get it all the way around, what we'll do is take a moment and burnish down the tape really good. It's time to clip our corners, so I'm going to bring this up so you can see what I'm doing. You can see where the corner of your chipboard is. What we're looking to do is cut at an angle, leaving about 1/8 inch away from that chipboard. So when you're doing this, you'll leave that 1/8 inch gap, and you're just going to cut. Now, you don't have to measure and be totally right on with this. You'll be okay. So here is the corner of my chipboard up here, and I am just going to cut at an angle. And we're going to do this to all the corners. Oops. So I have mine all clipped, as you can see. This is so big it's not going to fit in the frame, but that's okay. The first thing I'm going to do is wrap in the side. So I'm going to remove score tape from here and here. And down here, I'm going to peel it back, or you can remove it. I'm just going to peel mine back there on the inside so it doesn't catch. And the key to this is you're not going to pull it tight and over. We've already worked it, so all we have to do is just flop it over without pulling. If you pull, you can get your wrapping just too tight. We're going to go over to this side and do the same thing. So we're just going to fold it over, and we'll burnish. Now it's time to do the wrapping of the bottom, but we do need to tuck our corners. So I'm going to remove the score tape off one side only, and this tool is going to be helpful. What you're going to want to do is you're going to place your fingers down on the chipboard and one on your cardstock down here. You will place this up against the side, and then like you're rounding a corner, just bring it in like that. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to just place my hand on the chipboard, one down here, and then I will round around the corner there. So now what we're going to do is roll this up. I do like to start from the middle and just press, and then I work myself out, going outwards. Making sure I'm pressing up while I do this so I don't get any wrinkles. Okay, got that down. So now we're going to burnish. Now in the corners, if you have a little bulk, you just press down. And I can hear the score tape making contact. I hear like crackling noise underneath, so you might too. Okay, let's turn this around and we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to release this. Place a hand here, and round the corner. And I'm going to slowly bring this up and work it. Okay, now I'm going to press down those edges and burnish. Okay, my left is over here and my right is over here. Now one thing I can tell you is I did get right on the seam where the seam kind of split the little bit of, I have a shard. I'll show you how to fix that. It's not a big deal. The next piece we're going to need is the 6 by 8 1/4 inside spine cover. So I'm going to set this off to the side. And we're going to place our score tape on the side with the writing. Now I'm going to switch off to my 3/8 because it's a little bit wider. But the first thing we're going to do is go around the outside edges like a picture frame. Okay, we're going to inspect our piece really quick. If you have any score tape you can see peeking over to the other side, you will want to snip it. So this is a very important piece. What we're going to do is we're going to lay score tape right next to each other until this is completely filled. The reason why is because this is what goes down to our spine, and then on top of that are page hinges. So we don't want it to have any liftage. So everything gets covered. So let's finish up by laying our strips of score tape. When you come down to the end, you may see that you have about 1/4 inch or so left of black if you're using your 3/8. All you have to do is swap over to your 1/4 inch and lay it right in there. If you're overlapping, that's completely fine. I've got mine covered, and now I'm going to spend time making sure this is all burnished down really good. I know burnishing is very boring and it just seems like a hassle, but honestly, it makes the difference. So before I go ahead and take this off, I'm going to show you first. When I remove the score tape backing, when this places down, it places down evenly over your Tyvek, and it will cover it. The most important thing that you're going to need to do is center this. So you're going to have a little bit of a black here of your album and up here. Do not bring it down all the way to the bottom. You're definitely going to want to leave some room in between. So if you need to make a mark to get it pretty even, you can. And getting this on straight, take your time, because you're going to want to get that on as straight as you can. Because this top part is going to become our guide for getting everything on straight. So I'm going to remove this, and then we're going to place this together. I have the score tape backing off, and now I'm going to place it. So this right here is good enough for me. I think that's on fairly straight. It's kind of hard to see. So long as you leave some black here and here of your album. And we're going to burnish that down really good. Don't fold your album just yet. We'll do that together. So what you're going to do now is place a hand on that spine, slip one underneath, and slowly lift. And score tape, the reason why I use it is because if I use glue, sometimes I don't get even coverage and it will bubble up on you. So we're just going to slowly lift. And you don't want to do it fast, and you don't want to bring it all the way over here. I like to just put a hand down, and when it hits my hand, I'm done. Put a hand here, slide it under, kind of prop my hand up, and slowly. Now your album is going to be really tight, and it's going to want to go out on you like this. Don't worry about it. You can kind of do a little bit of a shimmy like this, but don't worry about it. Your album is new, and it will definitely ease up on you. So let's talk about if you got a little bit of shards right where the seam is. This is the remedy that I like to do. Is I grab a little bit of my glue, and I can see where the shard needs to go back down coming towards me here. And I'm just going to place some of this glue. The next thing I'm going to do is use my finger and roll it in the direction it's supposed to go. Then I'm just going to tap it a couple times and be done, otherwise it's going to tear. Another thing is if you tap it too much and you start wearing off maybe some of the black, or you have something on your finger, you can always ink that spot afterwards. I'm going to take a look over here and see. Whoops! I bumped the camera. Alright, I have one just starting right here. Not bad, but I'm going to peel that back a little. And I will roll my finger over and dab. And it's done. I'm going to let that dry. I didn't get anything down on that side. Does not look like it. I look pretty good. So here's my right side, and here is my left side. Now what I want you to do, this is going to get covered, but I want you to take your pencil. Here's my left, so I know that this is going to come over and become my front. I want you to just write front. It gets covered, so that we know that that's the one with the most score tape on it. Next thing that we are going to want is our 8 1/4 by 10 5/8 inside covers. We can see where our hinge is here. This piece here we're going to lay right on over, so in case you got this on a little crooked and all that, we're going to lay this over. It looks really clean and nice. And the beauty of this piece is the top and the bottom is going to line up with that inner spine piece we just laid down. So here's this. If I line it up there, I'm going to leave myself, probably about 1/4 inch away from the edge. And it will look good. The only thing we're going to do is place our score tape on this side so that it's nice and black on that side. Let's grab our score tape. I'm just going to use 1/4 inch for this, but I'm going to go all the way around like a picture frame to start. What we do with this one, we're going to do exactly the same with this. So I'm going to show you on this first one, and then we can go ahead and do the right side. We're going to go one down the middle, and we're going to put 2 on either side of that. We'll go ahead and burnish it, and then we can remove our score tape backing, and we'll place this first one together. I have all the score tape backing off. I'm going to bring this into view here, scoot it over, and I'm going to line the top and bottom with this piece, and I'm also going to look over here to maybe leave 1/4 inch away from the edge. Try to get this on as straight as I can. If it doesn't go on completely straight, that's okay. By the time we get our decorated paper down, I don't think it's really going to matter much. You're probably not going to see too much there. Okay, so I have that down. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one, making sure we are about 1/4 inch away from the edge, lining up top and bottom. And so let's do that. I have all the score tape backing off, and I'm going to place this. Okay, here's my front. I'm just going to lay that off to the side. Last thing that we need to do is put our inner pages in. So what you're going to do on your score line on each one is we're going to fold on it. We'll use our tool to help us crisp that up a little bit. So let's continue and do that for each one of these. I've folded on each one of mine. Now what we're going to do with the peak up, and the peak is off to the right, we're going to grab our 3/8 inch score tape. And what we're going to do is lay that right on in there without getting on our peak. and without going over, of course. So once you have that down, oops, I need to get a little more on there. So once you have that down, we're going to burnish really good. So let's do that for each one of our pieces. I have all 6 of mine done. And now what we're going to do is double check that we have the front where it needs to be. So I'll just open that up. I'm going to show you first before we do this. Sometimes I find it easier to show before I do. So I'm going to rotate this. Here's my little lip. Underneath is my score tape. I'll remove my score tape. Now the top of this and the bottom of this will line up here and here with your inner spine cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up one side. We're going to bring this all the way until it hits the inside of our cover. So we'll want that straight up and down. And we'll just line that up with the bottom of our piece there, of our cardstock. So it's all will line up for us. So I got my score tape backing off. I'm pulling this up. And just take your time with this first one. So I'll push it all the way up against there and press it down. And I am even with, as you can see, that inner piece. And then you definitely want to burnish. And we will turn the page and we will burnish this way as well. Okay, the rest of these are really easy. So we'll remove the score tape so it's underneath. And all we do is we take the edge of this, we butt it up next to this one, and we line it up and press down. It's really super easy hinging system. And it works. Okay, got the score tape backing off. I'm just going to press that up against and let it fall. If you get your pages on just a little bit crooked for whatever reason, chances are you're not going to be able to tell by the time we get our decorative paper in there and our fold-outs and our pockets. I'm going to get my next one ready here. That looks good. Got my last one. And we'll get that right on in there. Now, when you do this, you may end up, depending on how far over you had your front piece when you put on, you may have maybe a slight little bit more in the back than the front, and that's perfectly fine. But your album should look something like this. And right now what I'm going to do is take a moment to make sure I've got this down burnished really good. Everything else. Our base album is complete. We are now moving on to decorating the outside. We're on to decorating the outside. We have one pre-cut. We cut a 6.5 by 9 1/4. We called it an outside folder. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 9 1/4 across. We scored at 4 5/8. And you can just fold on that score line right now, and we'll set our folder off to the side. Let's begin. The first thing you're going to want to do is cut down your embossed vinyl. You would already be 8.5 by 11, so 8.5 is great. You'll measure over 8 inches and cut. Now, I realize that some of our cutters won't get through this, and I will tell you that I was able to cut this. I'm using a Fiskars, and I think I have another piece that I can kind of demonstrate. I have some leftover from another project I was working on, so this is a shorter piece. And I'm already 8. But anyway, what you would do if you're using a Fiskars Precision, I was able to cut. Now one thing is I'm going to move my blade down here and push this way. And it depends on the condition of your blade really, if you're going to be able to get a cut or not. I'm going to move this over. But what you'll want to do is get it lined up there, and you'll want to hold down here and then run it like that, and you should be able to, like I said, depending on the condition of your blade already, to cut it. If you are using something like this, I highly doubt that this is going to get through it. I really don't know, but let's take a peek here. So if worst case scenario, and I'm going to bring my blade over here, worst case scenario is that you can at least scratch it to maybe score it so that you can cut it the rest of the way, as you can see, so that you can get a straight line. So that's demonstration purposes. So your final piece, sorry about the dogs, 8 by 8.5. And we'll set that off to the side with our folder. We're going to begin cutting for our front and back cover. If you are new to joining me, or maybe you've only visited me a couple times, I'm going to go over how I tell you to cut. I try to stay consistent, so I'm not telling you to cut up, down, left, right. So I always will tell you to start here and measure over this way. If I need to get a special cut, I might tell you to turn your paper and measure over this way so that it's always going this way. That way there's no confusion and we're not all over the board. So you know what to expect. In your paper packs, you'll find one of these, and in your next one you'll find one of these. We are going to double these up. We're going to turn it sideways so the blue band is off to the left. Our first cut is we're going to measure over 8 3/8 and cut. So I'm going to get my cutter out and we'll do these together. My blade is right here. We're looking at it like this. 8 3/8, and I'm going to cut. These pieces that fall off to the side, we're going to stick this in what I call our reserves. It's our scrap pile. So this is what we have. We're going to look at it like this now. We do have that wrap, so we can conserve a little bit. Measure over 9.5 inches and cut. 9.5. These pieces we will put in our reserves. And I'll take this out of the way. So what we're going to end up doing is placing our score tape. And if you bring this all the way over to the right and kind of center top and bottom, you're going to leave yourself a little bit of a black border. In fact, if you were to center top and bottom, your black border over here is going to be the same as down here and here. And what we'll end up doing is once we get this on the front and the back, then we will put our spine cover on. So we're going to flip these over. And what we do on one, we will do for the other. I'm going to grab my 3/8, and the first thing I'm going to do is go all the way around like a picture frame. And as you can see, I'm placing score tape on the side that has the teacups. Once you have this all the way around, what I'd like you to do is do one down the middle, and you're going to put 2 on each side of that, and just space those out as best you can. Once you have that down, we will burnish it down But we're going to turn it over to make sure we don't have any score tape peeking over the sides, because it will show. Let's go ahead and do that with this one as well. Whoops. And I am using the 3/8 because it is a little wider. I have all the score tape on here. Let's begin. I'm going to remove the score tape and then we'll place it on, and make sure you're working with the front. I always try to stay consistent, do the front and then the back. So I'm going to get this going. Here is, I got all the score tape backing off, but here is a tip. These are large pieces and score tape's not forgiving. So first thing is, here's the front of my album. I'm just going to open this up for myself, but I am going to squirt some glue, and so I don't get my head in the video, I'm going to place glue down here. And the reason why is that it'll give me time to kind of shimmy my paper to get it straight if needed. So I got a little glue there. I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to go with it there. It's not quite where I wanted it, but that's good enough. And I'm going to burnish this. I'm just going to slide this over, and I'm going to get the score tape off this one. Time to do the back. This is my back, and I'm going to do the same thing with coming over here and trying to get this on as straight as I can. And the band should be at the bottom. So there's my front. We're going to grab this. Now I'm going to switch over to my fabric tack, my Beacon fabric tack here. And make sure, because we're 8 by 8.5, we should be 8.5 tall. So if you grab your ruler, let's just do this. Take your ruler, here's my front, and I'm going to put it at the top, and I'm going to measure over 2 1/8 and make a little pencil mark there. And I'm going to do the same down here, 2 1/8, just to help me line up a bit. So just make sure that you're not putting it on like this, where you're going to be short. So to make sure that you're going to be fairly even on both sides, if you were to place this down and put it right where the pencil marks are and wrap it around, you should have approximately about 2 or so in the back. So it'll look even enough there. So I am going to get some of this on here, and I can wipe up anything that I am almost out of this. And we're going to start by doing this in sections here. So give me a minute and I'm going to get all my glue down. Now right here along the edge, your spine, you're going to want to get that on there too. And I'm just going to, where I can see that pencil line, is bring this. Now one thing is you are not going to want to open your album to do this. Oh, there goes the doggies. You're going to want to keep your album shut. Otherwise what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to open it. So I've got that on. I'm just using my hands there. I'm going to flip this over and let that fall. And I'm going to continue on, making sure I get it right down in here. I think I got another bottle of this. I've used this quite a bit. Okay, now with my book, I'm going to grab this end and just bring it like it's in its normal shape. And I'm going to press, and then I'm going to smooth it over. And I'm going to hold this with my hand so that it's smooth. Okay, now that I have that, I'm going to continue on. Get my glue down in here, and now I'm just going to get right on this fabric, this backing. Ooh, so gooey. Okay, I have my album, and I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to push it over as I go. and smooth it out. Making sure I get on that hinge there. Okay, I'm going to set this off to the side and allow that glue to dry. While your album spine is drying, what you'll want to do is cut 2 of your bling strands that are about 8.5 inches long. I got one here, and I got one here. So I'm going to get that ready. Next, let's grab our 6.5 by 9.25 outside folder. We'll work on that while our thing is drying. In your paper pack, you will find this panel sheet. On the back, it looks like this. Now we're going to put this on our paper cutter, and I'm going to put my stuff out of the way. And on something like this, what we're going to do is just stick this on our paper cutter and cut straight in between this side and this side. So I'll just do that really quick. We'll stick this one in our reserves. Now we may need this strip, so the next thing is we're going to cut right on this line that divides the trim from the white. And I'll show you mine. We're going to stick this in reserves. Now we're just going to cut in between these 2 panels. I'll stick this in reserves. And now we have this. What we're going to do is stick this on our paper cutter, and we're going to cut to release the white off the red all the way around. So I'm going to show you mine. So as you can see, I took that off. So I'm going to keep doing this all the way around. I can trim this down later if I need to. These little pieces I'll just put in my reserves. Let's grab our panel. Now if we were to place this, this should give us a black border of our thing, of our folder all the way around. I see where I can still see a little white, so I'm going to trim this up just a little bit. There we go. That is better. So if you can see any of that white, just kind of trim it off. We're going to apply glue. Our opening is going to be at the bottom. We'll center it in there as best we can. Making sure we can see a little black border. That looks good. Now even though we're using glue, you'll want to burnish because it helps spread the glue out. And if you have any glue seeping out, you can just clean that right up. Let's open that up, and we're going to place our first set of magnets. We'll grab a plus and a minus. So here's our front. We just flip that up, come down maybe an inch, and place that one. And we're also going to have something down here, so we're going to just place that right on top of its mate. It'll grab. And I've taken the adhesive off. Now what we're going to do is just close this and press, and it will set your magnet. So for me, instead of sitting there trying to struggle with these and maybe the magnets come off, I just kind of slightly shimmy it over to get that to release. Otherwise, it might tear your magnet back off. I think my album has dried enough. I'm looking at the front here. We're going to apply glue right along the edge here, and we're going to place our bling. I'm just using regular glue for this. And you can wipe up any glue that seems to be too much. So right along that edge. We'll do that. Okay, so I got that one on. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, that's going to need a moment to dry, so I'll just stand this up. While that's drying, let's open this up. In your reserves, you will find one of these with the teapots. Looks really cute. So this is the one I have. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that in half because this is 12 inches. Okay. I'm just going to place it one up here, kind of center that, and I'll place one down here. Don't glue it down just yet. You have 2 of these in your reserves. We'll turn it over this way. The blue band is over here. We'll measure over 6 inches and cut. Those little pieces can go in our reserves. Okay, so we got this one, and we have this one. We have this one and this one. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to lay this one down, the smaller one, down here. And we are conserving paper in this because it's such a big album. Even though we have 3 packs, we still conserve. So once we glue this one down, the bigger one goes down over the top of it. And you barely will be able to see the little seam there. It'll look okay. If you'd rather arrange it a different way, you can. So it's up to you. If you'd rather go with it like this and bring this down like this, you can do that. And you know, that matches up a lot better. So let's do it like that. So we're going to place this. We will make sure we leave a space before our little score line and try to get this on side to side as even as you can. There we go. And now for this one where it has this down here, let me get my glue on there. So when you're seaming together pieces to make do with what you have, just make sure the seam part, you're gonna get some along that edge pretty good. So we'll just line these up and I will leave a space down below, a little border. Okay, next piece here. Let's take a look at how we want. Here's our writing. And I think I'll do it like this. That looks good. So I'll start with the shorter one down below, the bottom section, and I'll leave my spacing. Had to take a little break, so I'm back. We have this, and we're going to just place this right on the cover. I think that looks really good. So I'm going to flip this around. I'm not going to do any layering back behind. Make sure your album, the blue is down here, which represents this is the front. And we're just going to place that in there. Okay, once you have it in place, you're definitely going to want to open that up. And I'm going to open this up so I can burnish this down pretty good. Find my magnet there so I don't go scuffing it up. My paper. If we want to come back and add something later on, we can. Decorating the cover is done. We are now going to move on to page 1. And while we're here, we're going to label these. So we're going to go 1. I have something here. I'm going to go 2. And you should do this too, because it helps if you do walk away from your project for a bit. You come back, it's easy to see what page you're on. So I'm going to the next one. Got quite a few pages in this. let's move on. In your paper pack, you'll find this print. On the back, it is this. Let's turn our page so where we're looking at like this. From here, measure over 8 inches and cut. This long piece, put in your reserves. Looking at it like this, measure over 10 1/8 and cut. This smaller piece, put in your reserves, and let's flip this over. This is going to be our main decorative page here. Grab your 3 5/8 by 11 inch, and you will notice down in the corner where the score lines kind of meet, it makes a square. We're going to cut out those squares on each side. Whoops, I bumped the camera, I think. Once you've done that, turn it over and let's fold on those score lines. And you'll want to use your tool. Fold in your sides. We're going to grab our glue for this. So if you were to pull in your sides, right down here in the corner, we're going to dab some glue, just right in the corner there. With our sides folded in, we now bring the bottom up and over. And if you're using the basil paper like me, you'll notice that it is a very strong paper. So give it a moment. We're going to get this down. I'm going to give this just a minute more to attach over here. We're going to apply glue to this, our flaps. And the opening is right here. The bottom is the flap. And what we're going to do with this is we're just going to center this side to side. And we'll bring it all the way to the bottom. You might be able to see some of your cardstock there on the sides, your decorative paper, and that's fine. And we're going to burnish this down. The next thing that we want is the 5 by 8.5, our flips. And we're going to fold on those score lines. So before we attach these, I want to show you how this works. You have an upper score line and a bottom score line because our flap's going to attach at the top. On the top score line, you will pinch and crease. You'll still be able to see your other one. For now, I just want you to hook this back behind. Just lay it there. Same goes on this one, that top score line. And what we plan on doing is centering these together in the middle. You may be able to see some of your cardstock off the side, and that is perfectly fine. So just lay this down, kind of look where you're at there, and I think right about here is good for me. Make sure it's tucked in there good. I'm going to pinch and hold this and place my hand down. Now I'm going to just apply glue and put that down. Make sure you burnish. So we'll leave that right there. The next one is here, and we're going to hook it on to where it is right next to it without overlapping. And we'll pinch and hold that, and we'll glue this little flap down. So right now this is what you should have. So now we can actually push back against the other score line on both of these and then push until it kind of feels flat. And this is some really strong, good paper, this basil, so just give it a moment to But when you're done, you should be pretty even down here at the bottom. And you should have a little bit of spacing there too, in between your pages. That's the idea. So let's open this up now, and we're going to start getting some paper for this. In your paper pack, you will have this piece. On the back, it is this. Let's turn our page looking at it like this. Measure over 7.5 inches and cut. So this is the piece that we want. Now we're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 4 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 4 3/4 and cut. You will end up with this, and what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to this, and we are going to center it on these panels, and we will have enough away from that score line. So one goes there, and then on the other one goes there. So let's get that glued down. And if you need to fold one away so you can actually see where the edges of your black cardstock are, do so. I got those. Now let's get our paper for the pocket. In your reserves, you will have this print on the back. It is this. Measure over 10 inches and cut. After making that cut, this is what you have. We're going to turn it to where our pieces are right here. Measure over 3 inches and cut. This should fit. Now if we apply glue to this, which we're going to do, and place it all the way to the bottom of our pocket, that will give us a black lip. Let's do that really quick. We're going to put something right here. On the back of the cover, you will find what I call the sentiments piece. We're going to try and keep things intact. So the first thing that we're going to cut out is this is impossible, only if you think it is. So we'll just cut out and around that really quick to get it out. My other scissors would be better for this. I gotta clean these up. It's all sticky. Also off this piece is, you see how we have this red trim here? We're going to place this on our paper cutter, and we're going to trim that off, and I'll show you mine. You can put this back in reserves, but as you can see, this is what I have. We'll measure over 10 inches and cut. We're going to apply glue to the back of this, and we're just going to place that right over our decorative paper so we still have that black lip. I think this will look good by the time we're done. This is such a fun paper to work with. I was really excited when I saw this. There's so many possibilities. For this one, I'm going to stick it on my paper cutter so I can get some straight edges, and I'm going to cut out and around the piece, leaving the beige border, and I'll show you mine. This is what mine looks like. Now all we need to do is grab some leftover black cardstock. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to apply glue to this. And I like to do this because it frames. But what we're doing here is we're going to place this down to some black cardstock, leaving maybe a 1/16 inch of black showing there. And then we're going to cut out and around, leaving a little bit of that black border. And I will show you mine as soon as I'm done. So this is what I got on mine. All we're going to do is put glue back underneath this side and straight across the bottom. We're going to leave this side open so you can tuck something, a little tag, or perhaps you want to tuck a picture mat to frame it out front. We're just going to place that down. So now I'm just going to grab this out of reserves to show you, but you can tuck back in there a picture mat or tag. That looks really good. Let's close this up, and we're going to get our paper for this. So this is what we're going to be using on the front. We do have to make several cuts to make it look good and framed. So on the back it looks like this. On this particular one, what we're going to do is stick this on our paper cutter, and we're going to, right underneath the little fancy trim going around the clock, we're going to trim straight down. So I'm going to grab my cutting board here so that you can see what I'm doing. Get those out of the way. So right underneath. So now you can see that's all I have left. Whoops, I bumped that darn camera again. There we go. And this I'm going to stick in my reserves. Okay, next thing is I want you to measure over 6 inches and cut this right in half, and then we can trim that down. So we'll go 6 inches. So right down the middle, that's good enough. Okay, we're going to make, actually we'll do one cut. What I want you to do is this one, you're going to look at it like this. This one you're going to turn upside down. We are going to put these together. So anyway, I'm going to make one cut because I'm doubling mine up. But that's what yours should look like. The clock upside down, this here. Measure over 4 7/8 and cut. This is what you should have. Okay, we're just going to have one looking like this. The clock on top of it like this. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. If you'd rather do them separately, you can, but Alice needs to be looking like this, 7 3/4. The clock needs to be looking like this, 7 3/4. When you're done making that, they should be the same, and your pieces should go together. Let's grab this. Here's our flips. So this one will be right over here, and it will give you just a little bit of a black border. I'm going to fold this one out of the way so you can see. So we'll get that one down. Okay, this one goes down, and we will match them up. I'm going to leave this one down while I match it up. Should match up whether or not you do this, because we don't have much of a border. We have just enough. Okay, I think I have it where I need to be. Now I can actually see what I'm doing. And I'll burnish that. That looks really good. It's time to get our straps. So our left strap is going to be over here, our right strap with the hinge over here. So let's fold on those score lines, and you'll definitely want to use your tool. So there's that one. And we'll get this one on. I totally love this page. Okay, so for this one, what we're going to do is we will push back again so we have our spacing in there. And all we're going to do is hook it back behind in the center, just like that. Once you have that, we'll turn it over and we'll glue that down. Just do the best you can. And I'm going to recheck mine to make sure it looks good. Okay, same goes with this one. We'll make it so we have our spacing in there. Now we're going to slip it back behind, and we are going to line it up with this other one. Now if you get it a little off, that's fine. We have something right here that's going to cover up any unevenness, but we're going to get this one on. And then I'm going to go wash my hands. I've got glue all over. So that looks really good. We're going to open these up, and we are going to have to place a magnet. Okay, plus and a minus. Actually, we're going to put it over here to make sure that this latches correctly. So close this one up. We'll grab a plus. When I did Cap Happy Bear, I got my magnet on a little wrong, so I want to try and make sure that this fits correctly when you flap it over. So come in about an inch from the side, and we'll place this one. We're going to place the mate on top. And now if you got these on crooked, this is where you can straighten it up. I'm going to give a little bend to this one and a little bend without creasing on that one. And I'm just going to come right on over the top and press. And now to release, instead of pulling up, I'm just going to kind of shimmy this just a little bit. Okay, let's open these up and find our paper. In your reserves, you will have this piece. We're going to turn this, measure over 1 5/8 and cut. We're going to need to make 2 cuts on this, but our first one is measuring over 6 3/8 and cut. After making that cut, we'll place this one over here. This one, measure over 5 1/8 and cut. And this one's going to glue down right here. So I'm going to get this magnet pretty good. And make sure you don't get it on your score line there. And I'm just going to center this top and bottom, bring it on over there. Now my writing's upside down. I suppose I could have done it the other way, but I don't care. Everything's weird anyway in Alice in Wonderland. So I'm not going to worry about my writing. Makes no difference. And then this one places over here. That looks good. Let's close that up. And we'll find our paper for the top side. In your reserves, remember this trim piece? On the back it looks like this. This is 12 inches long. On this piece that's in our reserve, we're going to trim off this red trim piece. We're going to use it. So this is what you should have. So what we're going to do is on both of these, we're going to have those 2 cuts that we did before. On these pieces, measure over 6 3/8 and cut. After making that cut, what we'll have is this, and we do need those other pieces, but I was thinking that we are going to layer over the other, and we'll slip that one back underneath and take a look what it looks like. I think it'll look really good, especially when we go to finish. So when we glue this down, we'll start with this one. The smaller of the red trim will be down. Let's glue this one down while we have it, and then we'll cut the other one. Now one thing when I'm doing these tutorials is I don't plan out every piece. I don't do that. I kind of like to fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to using the paper. It's whatever I think would look good. And we'll just layer it over. So we'll flip this one on top. On both of these, measure over 5 1/8 and cut. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. The shorter of the red little piece there goes down. And we'll be done with this page in just a bit. There's only one more thing that I want to do. I'm just going to leave that laying down so I can, whoa, I got a lot of glue on that. Match it up. Let's grab this out of our reserves. There's my big scissors. I'm going to cut out and around through the looking glass here. The next thing that we want to do is cut out and around this image the best we can. Now if you don't want to cut out and around the little scroll work that comes around there, you can probably get away with not doing it. I am going to take the time though to get it as best as I can. I think I'm just going to kind of weave around things rather than get all the detail work on mine. It seems like it's quite a bit of work. And so I'm just going to weave around. So this is how mine came out. As you can see, I didn't go real detailed. I just kind of weaved around my piece. And I think that's going to be the easiest for all of us. We are going to mount this to some black scrap cardstock, and then we're going to cut out and round, leaving a black border. So that's why I said it's probably easier for us just to weave around it instead of the detail of the scroll. Okay, this is scratch piece here. I got this glued down, and now I'm going to cut out and round, leaving just a sliver of black showing. So it will make my piece look better. And it strengthens it up because I'm going to have that in the front. Just do the best you can. You don't have to be perfect. Lord knows I'm not. I have mine done. It's not perfect, but it's fine. All I'm going to do is glue this down, and it's only going to be glued down to one side there. So I think I'll just place some glue here. And you might want to tuck something back behind to make sure your glue does not seep out. And I'm just going to try and get this centered. That's where I want it. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm definitely going to check back behind, make sure no glue is seeping out. Page 1 is complete. I hope you like it. What we're going to do now is flip this over. We're going to apply our score tape around the back side like a picture frame. I'm going to be using a 1/4 inch, I think. And we'll start there. Now we're not going to place page 1 in the book yet until we complete page 2. And that's how I always do. If you are someone who's taken my tutorials before, you already know why. But if you are new, it's because the page 1 is the inside of the chipboard, and our chipboard is slightly larger than our inner pages, like page 2. So when I line up on when I get my other piece for page 2, once I get that in, it is easier to line up your page 1 with it. So, and we'll go over that once we get there. So we have it around there. We're going to go 1 down the middle. And I think we're going to go 2 on each side. And then we'll burnish and set this off to the side. I am done placing the score tape on the back. Let's set this off to the side. We are now on to page 2. We're on page 2. We have some pre-cuts. We cut 2 pieces that were 3 3/4 by 6 inch, and we called them a pocket. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 3 3/4 across, and we scored at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it, so now we are 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 and 5 1/2 inches on both of these. We also cut a 3 1/4 by 9 inch piece. And what we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We are 9 inches across, and we scored this at 4 1/2 inches. So let's begin. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these. The first thing that I want us to do on this is take a sliver off. So I'd like you to measure over a 1/4 and cut. So 1/4. This long piece, let's put in our reserves. Looking at it like this, we're going to now measure over 8 inches and cut. Let's put this in our reserves. We're going to need to do 2 cuts. The first cut we're going to do is we're going to measure over 1 inch and cut. This piece, put in your reserves. Now we'll measure over 10 1/8 and cut. that is good enough for me. We still have our words up here. So we're just going to scoot that off to the side. We have 2 pockets to assemble. Down in the corners where our score lines meet, it makes that square. So let's cut out on both of those squares. I have those all cut out. Now all we do is fold on all the score lines on both pieces. So let's do that. So I have all that done. And on the pockets, what we do is, here's our bottom flap. We'll fold in the sides, and then down in the corner, we'll put some glue. Whoops. Fold in the sides, and the bottom comes up on both. And then we will burnish. I have both of mine done here. And I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to show you first before we do. So we're going to place this, we're going to bring it all the way over to the side of our decorated paper and all the way down to the bottom, just like that. This one comes all the way over to the left with the bottom. So you will have a spacing in between. So let's get these down. This page is pretty quick. So down to the bottom. We'll get this one down too. Oop, we can hear some music in the background, can't we? I think that's my husband in his hobby room. Okay, that looks pretty good. We have a spacing in there. Burnish this. Let's find our paper for this. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It's 12 inches long, and on the back, it looks like this. The first thing that we're going to do is turn it like this, measure over 3 1/8, and cut. We'll place this in our reserves. We're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 4 7/8 and cut. Measure over again 4 7/8 and cut. These 2 pieces, we're going to apply glue on each one, and we're going to turn them over. We're going to center them side to side so you will still be able to see a black border around your pockets. And of course up top you'll have one. So get these down. Let's set this off to the side, and we're going to grab our 3 1/4 by 9 inch folder, and we're going to fold on that score line. So in your paper pack you will find this print. It's kind of like our panels and tag sheet. On the back it's this. So if the first thing I want us to do is put this on our paper cutter, we're going to cut off this trim here, and we're going to cut off this long trim here, and I will show you. So doing so, that gives us 2 nice looking trim pieces here. We're going to put one down and we'll put one in reserves. The next thing that we want to do is put this on our paper cutter, and we're going to divide this section from here. So right down in between. Let's cut that. Put this one in your reserves. Now we're going to divide these from this. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut to divide these 2. And I'll show you what mine looks like. This is what we have. We're going to work with this one. We'll put that in reserves. On this piece, now we're going to trim it to fit the front of our folder. It's very easy. We're going to just trim off this beige part of the border all the way down. We'll leave the black for now, and we'll do it over here too. So trimming off trimming off the sides. I will show you what mine looks like. So after doing that, this is what your sides are going to look like. And if you were to place this down, that will give us a nice black border around there. We're going to do the same thing over here, chopping off this and down here, and I will show you mine. If we were to place that down and center it top and bottom, that'll give us a nice border up here, down here, and we have the side borders. Let's glue that down. Our opening is at the bottom. Let's open this up. So I'm just going to go like that. We need 2 magnets. We'll get a plus and we'll get a minus. So the plus is going to go up here, or you can do the minus, whatever you prefer. Doesn't matter as long as we have a plus and minus. So we'll bring it down about 1 inch. We're going to place the mate on top, and then we're going to close this so that it finds the place it's supposed to be at. So we'll just bring that down, and then we'll undo this. So that's what we should look like. Let's go ahead and find our paper. In your reserves, you will have another one of these. We're 12 inches long. So we'll just look at it like this. We have 2 cuts. We're going to measure over 3 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 3 inches and cut. We're going to glue these down. One goes down here, and one goes down right here. In whatever way you want to do. If you want to flip over one of these so that you have some room to write on, I think that would look good, just like that. I have mine, and I'm just going to close that up. Let's grab this. Now when we apply glue, we're only going to put some a little under here and then across the bottom. And we'll set this off at an angle. So I'm just going to flip this over, maybe go halfway up and across the bottom. And that way we can still use this as a tuck area. And if you place this to come off a little bit, you won't want to go more than maybe 1/8 of an inch off your side. I think that looks pretty good. I like it. Okay, for this piece, just place this down, or you can measure over 4 7/8 and cut, measure over again. I'm just going to place this down. Now as far as this one, you don't have to do a second one of full 4 7/8 because you're not going to be able to see. So I'm just going to measure to fit what I need here. And that way it leaves me some extra that I can use somewhere else. So for this, I'm just going to kind of look to see how far over I'd want to go. Maybe right here. Stick it in there. There we go. We have a cut apart sheet, the back page. We're going to come and grab this image of Alice out. Put those two pretty close together. Okay, I'll put that in my reserves. Now let's cut out and around Alice. I have Alice cut out. The next thing I'm going to do is glue her down to some scrap black cardstock, and I'm going to cut out and around her, leaving a little bit of a black border. This is going to outline her, make her stand out better, as well as stiffen this piece up. So let's do that, and I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done. I have mine cut out, and this is where we're just going to stick her here, and we're going to put glue under her feet and a little back behind her apron there, her dress. So her feet. This is a great place to put a little tag or something back there. Page 2 is complete. Let's flip this over. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame. 1 down the middle and 2 on each side, and we're going to place this in our book together. I burnished and I got the score tape backing off. So here is page 2. And I'm going to place something back behind it so you can actually see where the edges are. There we go. I think you could see pretty good there. What we're going to do is we're going to move in 1/8 inch from the side. I'm going to bring this down a little more so you can see better. And I'm going to center this top and bottom. So if you need to place some glue to help you maneuver, do so. So 1/8 inch in, approximately, and place it. By doing that, that's going to give you a good 1/4 inch away from your hinging here. So now that I have that in there, I'm going to burnish. And you don't want to skip out on any of this. No skipping. Because it... Okay, now that we have page 2 in, we can actually get page 1 in. So I'm going to remove the score tape backing. Here is my hinge, so be mindful of where your hinge is. And what we're going to do is try to line the bottom and top of this page up with the top and bottom of this one. And we are going to move in enough away from that hinge. So you can move in maybe a 1/2 inch and leave a larger gap here, or you can go over more. It is up to you entirely. One thing that we can do, because we will be reinforcing the hinges in the end, is if you want to place it over more to the left, you can also get a strip of decorated paper here, and it'll look really good. So it's up to you. So I'm going to remove the score tape backing, and I'm going to place this. So just make sure you're going the right way. I'm going to try and line this up. And I think I'm going to shift mine over because I'll just put a strip of decorated paper over there. And that won't hurt anything. It's hard to see without getting my head in the video, but I think I'll go right about here and place it. So now we're going to open this up and burnish it down really good. Page 1 and 2 is complete. I think it looks really good. We are now moving on to page 3. We're on page 3. We have some pre-cuts. Let's review them. The first pre-cut was an 8 by 9 1/4. We called it a left fold out. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We are 9 1/4 across. We scored at a 1/2 and 5/8. Our next pre-cut is a 5 1/8 by 6 5/8. We called it a front flip. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we are, let's see, 5 1/8 across, and we scored it at, whoops, a 1/2 inch. Next, we had a 7 5/8 by 8 inch right fold out. We laid this on our scoring board, so we are 7 5/8 across. We scored at a 1/2 and 5/8. We had a 2 1/2 by 9 inch. We called it a side pocket. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 2 1/2 inches across. We scored at a 1/2. Then we turned it, so now we are 9 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 and 8 1/2. Our last pre-cut was a 3 5/8 by 4 5/8. We called this a picture mat, but it can also be used as a tag. And there's no scoring on that. So let's begin. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print. On the back, it looks like this. The first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to turn it sideways to where Alice is down here. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. So this is what you should have. Let's turn it upside down. Alice is over here. Measure over 10 1/8 and cut. This is going to be our base decorative page, and the first thing that we want to get after is our left fold out. So let's take a moment and fold on those score lines. Our hinge is going to be off to the left, and on the outside score line we're going to pinch on it and crease it. You'll still be able to see your other one, and we're going to hook that back behind, and once we have it in place we'll pinch to hold it, and we'll hold that down so it doesn't slip on us, and we'll glue that down. Don't push back just yet. We don't have to. The next thing is we want our right fold out, and we're going to fold on those score lines. So we're going to work a little bit on page 3, and then we're going to need to go over to part 2 of the video. There's not enough time left on this part 1. On the here's our hinge. On the outside score line, let's pinch and crease, and we're just going to hook that one back behind as well. Okay, now we can fold back on those other score lines and kind of push it in. And we're going to open this up. I want to make sure my hinge is down good over there. So it's going to pop up on you if you're using a heavier cardstock, and that's fine. Once you get it in the book, it's all good. The next thing we're going to do is grab our 2.5 by 9 inch side pocket, and we're going to get this ready to go. In those lower corners where the score lines meet and make that square, let's cut those out, and we're going to get our pocket ready. Fold on those score lines. Let's grab our glue down in the corners. We'll get this all done. Okay, once you have that, we're going to just set that off to the side, and we're going to get some of our paper ready to go here. In your paper pack, you will find this, and on the flip side, it is this. The first thing I would like us to do is put this on our paper cutter, and you see the little squares? We're going to cut right down to divide the squares from the trim. So let's do that. After doing that, this is what you're going to have. Set this to the side. We're going to need that. Now that we have that, and we have this set off to the side, we're going to turn this sideways. Measure over 7 3/4 and cut. For now, put that in your reserves. We're going to turn this upside down, measure over 6 3/4 and cut. So this is what you should have. This other piece we're going to just set off to the side. Flip this over, make sure your band is over here, and we're going to center it in there, and that should give you about 1/8 of an inch away from that inner score line there. And we're going to glue this down. This side is for picture placement, just to place your photos. Okay, I'm going to move this over. This one right over here, we're going to place that one down, and we'll be 1/8 inch away from that score line, the outside score line. This one's going to be short, so don't worry about that. We're conserving paper as best we can. This piece here that I had you set off to the side, measure over, let's see how we're looking at this. like this with the band down at the bottom. Measure over 7 3/4 and cut. So we're just going to flip that over and we're going to give ourselves a little bit of color here. I think that that's going to work for us. And we'll just bring that right up next to the other. We'll see if we need to get any more cardstock out, but I think that's going to be fine for us right there. Your side pocket, the opening is right here, and it is going to work for us. We're just going to lay that pocket right there. So let's get this down. And we'll bring it over. Okay, now we need to grab a plus and a minus magnet. And we'll start with the plus. This is going to go on our pocket, and you'll just place it in about halfway in there. We'll place the mate on it. Make sure you pushed against and it's straight, and we're going to fold this over onto the other one. And we'll push. Let's get our paper for this. In your reserves, you should have this piece. It is about 1 7/8 by about 8 inches. This is perfect for us. All we're going to do is apply glue and glue that down, and that'll be perfect. And that will go from top to bottom, leaving us a black little lip there. On this sheet, let's get a couple things off. One is Alice in her chair. So there's one. And let's see, I think I would like Tweedledee, Tweedledum. So one thing that we're going to want to do is cut out and around this, and we're going to cut out and around this one. When you're cutting these out, leave the white in between them. We're just going to cut out and around the outside. I think that's best for what we're doing. I have both of mine cut out. And here's this. I'm going to set this off to the side for a moment. Grab a piece of scrap cardstock. We're going to glue these down, and then we're going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. And I will show you mine as soon as I am done.